Well, the time is just gone, 8:32 a.m. as we continue with our broadcast this morning right here on Salam Media. And our focus now turns to Palestine, and we are talking about the University of Pretoria, a resolution taken by the staff for this, and this speaking for the people of Palestine, showing solidarity with Palestine. And for me, my memory goes back to last year, July, where I spoke to an academic from Palestine. And a few months later, I learned through a tweet on X. And this message spoke about her being killed. And it became very, very personal for me because at that point in time, what I had covered on Salam Media were the exceptional results that were achieved by the children of Gaza, where hundreds of children had basically achieved well over 90%. And I still recall that interview, but later on, when I heard that she got killed, it became very, very personal. And I must say, it's actually heart wrenching. And this is exactly what it's all about. We speak about journalists being killed, we speak about civilians being killed. What about the children of Gaza? What about their education? What about the universities? What about the teachers, the libraries, the educational infrastructure, all of that for the last 9 months? How many children, in fact, have died? And again, they have suffered in more ways than one, including their education. And that is why this interview exceptionally important as we link up with senior lecturer at the University of Pretoria, speaking for the University of Pretoria, for the staff, for Palestine. And we go across to join Dr. Marc Wegerif. Dr. Marc, good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yes, for the reasons I had mentioned in my introduction, and clearly it is heart wrenching to see what is actually happening and the lives that these young children, teachers, I spoke about educational infrastructure, all of that put together. And against this background, this resolution of the Senate of the University of Pretoria on Palestine.
Yeah, well, again, thanks for having me. And I just to be clear, I'm not speaking on behalf of the university. I am speaking on behalf of a Palestine Solidarity group amongst the staff at the University of Pretoria Staff for Palestine. And there's a resolution that has been drafted, has been submitted for consideration at Senate. So Senate of University of Pretoria will be meeting on Tuesday, the 30th, next week. And we hope and pray that they will adopt this resolution. It is extremely important that, institutions and noble institutions like the University of Pretoria, that we are proud of, take a clear stand on what is happening in Palestine. From an education perspective, every university in Palestine has been destroyed. No school is properly functioning. We know that 16,000 children have been killed. Hundreds of academics have been killed. The presidents, the equivalent of our vice chancellors of universities, have been killed. So, this is clearly part of the genocide that is wiping out people, wiping out education, wiping out the skills base. And I think, a lot of people, maybe they don't think about Palestine as an ordinary country. We think about the violence and so on. But Palestine has been a country and a peoples that have valued education for a long time, have valued achievement in education. You talked about the results of some of those school children. And everyday people's lives where children would go to school, people would go to work, to lecture, and all of that is being destroyed. We all have to take a stand on that. We all have to stand against it.
Well, certainly. And when I look at this resolution, and I'm looking at it right in front of me, I see one right up to about 13 points that are actually listed in this resolution. And at the same time, what this resolution is saying, in keeping with the commitment to international solidarity, and we've seen it right across the entire world. We've even seen the students, we've seen the universities in the United States of America and other parts around the world in their solidarity. And clearly the Senate at the University of Pretoria will have to take serious note as in terms of what is contained in this resolution and the points that are mentioned in this resolution.
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate that it's now gone to resolution to the Senate, and it was submitted by the Dean of Law And I think that's important. You know, the University of Pretoria has an internationally renowned human rights law center, considered one of the best, if not the best, in Africa. And of course, there's a big contradiction between, you know, standing for human rights law and any kind of association with the Zionist and genocidal Israeli regime. So, you know, it's very important for the reputation, I think, of our university that we do take a stand on these things. I think it's particularly important for University of Pretoria. You know, we're proud of what it is and what it achieves, but we can't forget that University of Pretoria was very much part of the settler colonial project. It was a supporter of that. It was a supporter of apartheid. It was an important supporter of the apartheid regime in South Africa. Now, the university, you know, of course, claims to be transformed, and it has changed in many ways. And also in its mission, it says its mission includes engagement in society. We don't want to just be the ivory tower. We need to engage in society. We also say in our values that we should stand for humanity. So this, to me, is something of a test for University of Pretoria. Have we changed that much from a supporter of the apartheid regime in South Africa? Can this institution now stand with the oppressed? Can this institution now stand clearly against the apartheid that is going on in Israel? And I'm not just using that rhetorically. You know, we know that the International Court of Justice has confirmed their opinion that indeed the racist practices in Palestine committed by Israel amount to apartheid. The University of Pretoria now needs to show it has changed, show that it can, from its history now, stand clearly against apartheid, against settler colonialism, and of course, against the slaughter of thousands of children and other civilians.
Yes, and also I think what's important to note is the level of engagement that this resolution calls for, and it talks about refraining from engaging in academic cultural collaboration with Israeli-linked academic journals, publishings, and also I think just taking a look at some of the other critical issues, the role that a university can play. We've seen it in the United States of America when those protests had taken place across campuses right across the country, where they were talking about research and about all sorts of activities that universities are engaged in. And this resolution also talks about the university to audit investment portfolios, investment fund managers. You know, all of these are extremely important because at the end of the day, it is about investment in Israel. It is about Israeli-owned firms. It is about the arms manufacturing companies as well. So all of this put into perspective tells me this is a very, very powerful initiative on the part of the University of Pretoria and the staff of the university in support of the people of Palestine.
Yeah, I believe it is comprehensive, and I'm happy with that. And we certainly hope that the Senate will adopt this, and the university will carry through on these actions and these commitments that we're asking Senate to, to approve. And there should be no collaboration with a genocidal regime, and there should be no collaboration with institutions that are supporting that. So we know many universities in Israel have been directly working even with the military of Israel, and therefore are directly involved in this genocide. But even those indirectly involved, we can't normalize what is happening. The horror and the brutality that's going on every day should never be normalized. And therefore we should not be just carrying on business as usual with those institutions, because that is legitimizing and it is supporting the genocide that's going on, the settler colonialism and the grabbing of land. We have to say, where do we stand? What's going on right now? Sometimes people might wonder, where would I have stood on apartheid, in apartheid South Africa? Where would I have stood if I was born in the times of brutal colonialism in the past? It's going on now. This brutal colonialism is happening right now in Palestine, and we all have to ask ourselves, where do we stand as individuals and as institutions? So the resolution clearly calls there should be no investment in Israel or Israeli institutions. There should be no collaborations with Israel or Israeli institutions, and we hope we see that happen. I just also want to say that another part of the resolution is that we're saying we will and we should do more to work with Palestinian institutions, and we should work with those dissident Israeli academics. We are not saying no contact at all with Israelis, and we know there are many good and principled Israeli academics as well. And we should actually reach out to those and support them and work them. They're also being harassed in their institutions in Israel. We've even seen harassment of academics in institutions in the USA, for example. So we should stand with those progressive academics that work for justice. We should also do more to support students in Palestine that, as we mentioned earlier, are now out of education, and academics in Palestine. So we hope to see the University of Pretoria also using its resources in a positive way to connect with and support the reconstruction in Palestine when that comes about, and Palestinian academics and students.
Well, we do connect with some of those out in Israel from time to time, as you mentioned, and we know that, there are many voices that are actually speaking out against these atrocities, against this genocide that is unfolding. And I think also we've seen so many initiatives in the last 9 months. We've seen protest actions, we've seen demonstrations, we've seen the ICJ case, we've seen a lot of hype and a lot of action that has been created, the BDS movement, all of that put into perspective, but just looking at it from an academic perspective. And I think this is what's important, where I'm looking at point 11. It talks about initiating and supporting the development of workshops, seminars, other similar events across the university, a discussion, robust debate actually taking place on Palestine, on their right to self-determination, because at this point in time, it's we hear this term a two-state solution, which is loosely thrown about. But what are the implications? And this is where these discussions, these workshops, these seminars go a long way in providing that guidance. In terms of people, in terms of the understanding, and also putting into context the deeper underlying issues.
Yep, and we all need to be educating ourselves more about the situation in Palestine, what's really involved, the history of it, and to properly understand that. So even students who are active on this need to deepen their understanding. We as academics need to deepen our understanding, and we need to spread that understanding. I think a lot of people don't quite realize why this is such a key issue that we need to take up around the world. It is a genocide, and that is tragic, but this is also a colonial and imperialist project. So there are implications for us in South Africa and many other parts of the world. Israel is clearly, either it's backed by the USA, the biggest military and economic power in the world, or it's a surrogate of the USA, but they're clearly connected. This is not just as they try and position themselves some isolated, vulnerable state. So there's a wider project that we need to understand. And let's understand all sides of the debate, and let's have that debate to ensure that everyone is better informed. I also just want to say that, you've mentioned the activism at universities, and University of Pretoria has been maybe a little bit slow. We've heard of many other resolutions from other universities. So University of Pretoria has been a little slow, and that's again why I want to emphasize there's a particular responsibility, I think, importance for University of Pretoria to now take a stand. And there's an urgency to this. Some of these debates in our senates and structures of universities can take time. And, if we have any other colleagues listening from the university, I would urge us to take this with some urgency. We should all see it as urgent when every day children are being killed. Every day people are going hungry, a forced hunger, not an accidental due to natural disaster. This is a forced hunger on close to 2 million people who've been displaced. So this is urgent. We need to mobilize every pressure we can to stop what is happening in Palestine, to stop those horrors. So I hope the Senate and my colleagues there will really take it seriously, take it with urgency, and approve the resolution.
Well, let's see what happens on Tuesday, Dr. Marc Wegerif, and I'm sure you are obviously looking forward to seeing the outcome of what happens on Tuesday with the Senate as well. But I'm sure we will follow up, and we definitely will follow developments to see how that actually goes. But for now, we thank you, sir, for taking time out and being with us right here on Salam Media.
Thank you.
Dr. Marc Wegerif, University of Pretoria, with us this morning. And with that, we're going to go for another break. We come back. It is the day of Friday. It is Juma Inspirations. And we've got Maulana Nasir Mirazi, who will be providing us with the Nasiha this morning.